Hi there, welcome back to my channel, a little bit about everything. I was staring at my kitchen cabinets a couple of days ago, and I was wondering how they made the raised panel doors. Okay, so I went on a website and I ordered a set of bits, router bits. They come in a set of 3. You need 3 shapes to do a raised panel door. Now, if you were making a door, like a bathroom door or a door, they have raised panels in them, but that's a dado, and they're Morrison tenon joints. That's how they make the doors. But the kitchen cabinet doors are not the same, okay? And they are made from 5 pieces, okay? You got your panel, you got your frame, which is made of 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, your sides and your ends, okay? Now, a common number is around 3 inches for the width of the frame. So the frame all around is 3 inches. But you still have the routed edge, right? But in total it's 3 inches, roughly. Now, since this isn't a dedicated machine to making these, it's not like you had a track with a clamp and your piece you just push it through, okay? This is just a router bit with a bearing on it, okay? And whatever fence your router table has. So it's a little more dangerous to run the ends, like a 3-inch wide piece. If you try to run that through the router, it's going to get sucked in there. It's not going to work. But if you cut your piece 6.5 inches wide, you leave yourself ½ an inch of wiggle room. So then you have 6 inches wide that you can feed through your fence without it falling off and getting sucked into the router bit, right? So that's much safer. So when you make your frame, you cut your pieces 6.5 inches wide. And your ends, same thing, 6.5 inches wide. Now, your sides are only going to have one routed side, which is the inside of the panel, one side all the way across. But your end caps get routed on all sides. You're going to do the length of that end piece is going to be the same router bit as you use for your sides. But when you flip it on the ends and you want to do the sides of your end caps, then you got to switch your bit, and you should have a piece of scrap to measure the height of where you're going to set your router bit, to make sure that you're not setting your pieces lopsided like this and end up having to trim too much off of the piece and it doesn't look good, right? So you got to get it pretty much bang on. Maybe a 64th or a 32nd difference would be allowable, because then you can run the whole door through a drum sander, okay, which I plan on doing. And you're going to glue your panel the same width and length of the inside of your frame after you've built your frame and you know what it is. And the depth of those router bits go in 3/8, so that's 3/4 total. So your width of your door and your length should be shorter, or you should add 9/16 to 5/8 to your length and width of whatever you found for the interior here, okay? And your raised panel looks like this. Okay? And normally there would be sort of a link here between. And if I drew it a little bit bigger. Okay, I stop it here and go here. That's what the sides look like. And those fit into the channel that the router bit made. Okay? You don't want this to be thicker than your frame. And on my bits, I measured them 7/8 is the maximum material I can run through with the bit. So my panel isn't going to be more than 7/8. So when I run it through the, and my bit actually does this. I can either try to run it like I showed you here, with no edge and flat bottom, but whatever you do, it shouldn't go beyond the frame. Okay, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to turn out just yet. If I go 7/8 here and I can hit the mark bang on, then I'm okay. But if I have to raise the panel here, I got to remove 1/4 of an inch, so that isn't 7/8 anymore. That's more like 3/4 of a raised panel. And how solid would that be? So, without further ado, let's get on with it. Hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. It matters. Okay, so I'm over here at the table saw, and I've already made myself a piece which is 7/8, and I measured the way you measure the width. Okay, you got to measure, if I want to make this 14, I got a -6, which gives me 8, plus I got to add 9/16 to 1/2 inch. So this was a little bit longer because I need at least 12 to run it through my machine here. So this isn't quite up to length yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to run both sides, and then I can cut my length, and I can do the ends, and then I can cut this width 3 inches in the table saw. So that's the plan. Okay. So I'm just walking over here to my router, and this is bit number 1. And the profile is actually upside down. So whatever you cut on here, you got to realize, once I've gone through it, the good side is the other side. So I'm going to get this ready to run through. So this would be the profile of my side. I don't know if that's coming up clear or not, but that's the profile of my side. And if you look at the top here, you notice there's no curvature, or it's not like a crown molding or a half crown molding type of deal, or a reverse crown molding. It's just flat. There's nothing fancy about it. But today the style seems to be going towards nothing fancy, right? I think the Renaissance age is gone. So I'm going to measure what I have here. And I have 1/4 of an inch on that one. And a little more on the top. So these measurements are important, right? 1/4 inch on that, and 9/32 on the groove. Okay. So now that I have this profile to use for my next bit, I'm going to run the sides through it. Okay, so let's run. This actually is my end cap. I'm just going to run the end caps and I'm going to make the sides for it. So, like I said, I'm going to change the bit and do the sides, and then I can rip this with the fence and the table side at 3 inch. But see what I mean? If I go 3 inches, I still have this routed edge. Okay, so you include that in your 3 inch, so it ends up like 2.5. Okay. Now, if I was to cut my strips 3 inches right away, 3 inches in here is almost the width of the gap. So it's dangerous. Plus there's no way of keeping this thing square up against the fence. So it's nice to have a longer piece where the square is easier to keep, you know, to maintain. But I'm just going to prep the sides for it right now, and I'll be right back. So I'm going to make it 14 by or 18 by 14. It's just a test door to see and demonstrate it, right? So I cut this thing, 18 is 36. I cut it 38 in case something happens at the end of my router pass. And this isn't a double width. If it was, you do that side, then you do the other side, and then split it in the saw. But it's not. I don't have a board that wide. And the sides, you're not touching the ends. That is the finished product right there. Always unplug your machine, right, before working on it. wondering what this machine is, it is actually Delta Shopmaster, and I don't see a model number anywhere, but I can adjust the height and lock it in, right? And it comes with the wrench, the lock wrench, and the router nut release. But no, I don't see a model number on it anywhere. So maybe this is it. Model number SH100. Down here. And what I do is I use a pinch or tape, but I'm going to run against the airface. Put that down. Take that good. It's not like keep air rolling. Now, I have these summers that I use to set the air height until here, target across the camera. And I'm going. So now that I have this piece, it should fit. See, once again, the piece has to be set up upside down. And I've got to be set up for, geez, if that's not it, it's pretty darn close. That's about it. I'm going to try the test piece and then run it up against It's funny, there's a little bit of slop in that. It's probably because it's not it's a good enough tool, I guess. Not a shop grade or industrial, but this is the upside down profile, or the profile the way it should be. Now the other piece should fit here, and this is the top side. So that's the profile it cut out. And there's a little bit of grease here. It's a new bit, so you can tell that's where the bearing was riding, right? So let's find that piece again. And let's see if we have a fit. And we do. Alright, so that bit, okay, if this is your good top, your good side, this is what you would see on your door, you have to flip it over. Because you want the opposite piece, it's the ends. It's not the same. So I'm just going to run this through, and I hope I don't get tear out. going to go over to the table saw and cut our 3" pieces. This is the frame. I'm going to cut it to length now. So all I have to do now is cut this to 18, which is what I wanted. And I'm going to cut it a little longer and cut them both at the same time. So that way I know they're both the same length. One. Now, maybe I should put them end on end. That way I don't get tear out. Okay, flush. And that's squared, and that's our ends. So this is assembled. It's pretty square, it's tight. The next stage would be you put your panel in. You put little styrofoam balls in the corners to prevent the center from moving around and let it expand and contract. The only place you put glue is on the end caps or on the end of your sides and your ends, okay? And you get, that's the visual from the end. There is a little bit of slop in it, but I can't really call it slop. It depends what kind of glue you're going to put in there. If the glue has an expansion rate, like Gorilla Glue, or some glue expands, okay? But don't make the mistake I just made. I was trimming off the excess and I trimmed off that little tab that was at the end. And if you look closely, it sort of looks like a boo-boo, but it's not. That's how it's supposed to be finished. You put a little bit of glue on the bottom side and you make sure that you put a little bit of pressure on there to bring it down. You could cut it at a 45 if you're pretty good, because it's supposed to be a 45 corner. Okay, so this is gonna be the race top. They're just pieces that I just cut, and the edge looks pretty good. Okay, I'm just in a small dilemma here on the fact that this can't run through there when I want to thin it out. So I'm thinking maybe I should thin them out before I glue them. And it's pretty loose for my liking, but I don't know if I might have made a mistake or not, or if I ran this twice and took off too much. But it's not taller, so I can go, I could probably do 7/8 for sure, since this is 7/8 and this is 3/4, and then finish the rest off in the drum sander over here. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mill them down to 7/8 strong and then glue them. and then I'll finish the rest off in the drum sander. So I've just finished gluing up the panel. Okay, and like these are big boards. Normally you would use smaller boards. I've just looked at it now, and some good dimension for board is 1.5, 2, 3, and 5, right? Or 1, 3, and 5. When you glue it together, they don't focus on even, they just focus on it's pleasing to the eye, because it's Fibonacci. And yeah, that's going to let that set, and you always put your panel in vertically. So this appears to be glued. I hope it's straight. There's a bow in it. I'm going to see what happens when I should have clamped it with something on either side. Okay, so I have to cut this 13 and I'm going to be taking off this last board since it's the one that would cause me the most problems. And I'm going to go square this in the miter saw. Now I'm going to cut the other side. I think it's 12 9/16. Just going to double check. It's 12 9/16. So I'm basically leaving myself 1/8 of an inch. This is my blank. So this is my raised panel, and this is my frame, and you can tell there's a space, right? If I set this flat, when I run it through the drum sander, that's going to be even with this surface. Before I actually assemble this, I have to sand this surface and inside that surface as well, because there's no way of getting at it once it's all assembled. So I have to sand this first before I actually glue it in the frame. Oh, why am I not? Okay, so that was kind of nasty, eh? I smoked up the shop. But I'm pretty sure I know what happened. And I'll show you the edge of the cutter. There's a little bit of blacking going on there, but that cutter's still taking off. It's pretty sharp, right? It's peeling off the fingernail. And what happens is, if that would have been a hardwood like maple, birch, or oak, that probably wouldn't have happened, because it was cedar, and it's a softwood, and it got compressed on the leading edge of that cutter. And the thicker it gets, your rake angle changes. Okay, and as it changes, it wants to push the board away, and it starts burning, and it starts. So that's why you saw this. And these are zero rake. They're not positive or negative. They're zero rake cutters. So they have to stay clean, or else you get buildup on the leading edge. Okay? So in an industrial environment, they would probably be using what is called a polycrystalline diamond coating. It's the same cutter, except they put a diamond coating on it. And it's not something you dip and something like that. They put this in a vacuum chamber with the material that they actually inject into the system. It's in a vapor, and it's lasered onto your cutter. And it's a few microns thick, but it's diamond, so nothing sticks to diamond. So the board, as you can see the darkening of the wood, right? And this is where I had to really press hard to keep this in here and stop it from climbing. But next time what I'm going to do is, since this is really, and I can sort of feel a little bit of humidity in this lumber, it probably wasn't 100% dry. But what I want to do is go over this a little bit before I assemble it, and take off the worst of it. Next time what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 2 passes. I'm going to split the depth in half. And if my board doesn't raise up and down, this edge won't get too thin to the point where it's not usable. Because if it climbs, I'm removing material on top and the bottom, right? So this will get thinner. Too high, because if it okay, so I won't be able to get in here with the sandpaper later on, so I'm just tidying it up a bit. See, I got this at a craft store, because it's hard to get the styrofoam cups anymore. I don't think you can buy them, right? But you can get it in craft stuff. or if you bought a big sheet of poly bead styrofoam, right? But with this, I just have to peel them off. Like there's one. So just put that in here. So that's going to help it from moving around. Glue doesn't adhere too well to dust, right? So make sure that I have a gluing surface. Put another one in there. And that will always be tensioning, adding tension to the board. So, put another one in there. And I'm just peeling this stuff off. Just put some glue in those joints. And you're only going to glue the end pieces. Those are probably going to fall out, right? No? You just glue the end pieces. And you don't want to put too much, because you don't want to glue. Like this had tear out, so I'm just gluing that, but dab there on that piece. So that's filled up, ready for gluing. I don't want it to fall. Put my poly bead back in there. Nope, jumped out. Do the same as this one. You want to be generous enough, but you don't want it to ooze out and glue the centerpiece. Alright, starting to drip. So that goes in here. And that goes in here. So this is the day after. Hopefully it didn't move around in here, and it did not. Everything seems good. And the panel in in the middle moves a little bit, just a little bit. Yeah, the styrofoam did its job, or the poly beads. So now for the sanding part. Okay, so I've actually put a fillet on this, a 1/4 inch fillet all the Okay, so now I'm going to sand these edges in the oscillating sander. Okay, so my edges have been sanded, and I have 7/8 and it's set to 7/8. So this is a pretty wide board here. I just hope this doesn't go south on me. And we're supposed to if you have something wider, there's a lever back there you're supposed to trigger. Well, this turned out pretty good. Really nice finish. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.